Four, three, two, one. And we are live. Welcome back to season 3 of Movie Guys Improvise. You are listening to
Chill with Realms.
Jurassic Mark
and Faerhad Targaryen. We have finally made it to season 3 of this podcast. If you folks haven't already, go ahead and check out our season 2 recap. And without further ado, I want to jump right into what we have in store for the premiere episode for this season. We're going to be covering the first few episodes of the anime Re:Zero, Starting Life in Another World. And this was Chill with Realms' choice. He has his own channel on YouTube with a bunch of anime content, which I will be continuing to link in the description. Realms, correct me if I'm wrong, the compilation that you had us watch was about 6 episodes of season 1 of Re:Zero, correct?
About 6, and then I put like a little portion of 7 in there.
Cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what the anime is and why you chose this as the episode for today.
All right, so just a brief description. We got my man Subaru. He's in a convenience store in the middle of the night, and he walks outside, and he blinks his eyes, and all of a sudden, he's in broad daylight in a totally different, seemingly universe. He gets to meeting a few different people throughout the day, some that are going through some issues, and he wants to help them solve them. Character Emilia, she lost something very important. He helps her try to track it down. And by the end of the day, he ends up dying. And you would think, okay, that's the end of the story. But no, that's the whole point of the story. He resets back to the beginning of the day, and then he has to figure out the right compilation of events in order to get through the day. And if he doesn't, he gets set back to a certain checkpoint.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the gist of what the story is in this anime. And I think this was pretty cool. And it's interesting and it's cool to get into the world of anime because, as I've told you before, the only animes I have really been in the world of and the gist of were, of course, Dragon Ball Z, Digimon, with some Rurouni Kenshin and Yu Yu Hakusho thrown in there. So this is the first new anime that I'm getting into. This premiered in 2016, so it's fairly new. It's about 4 years old, but it's had around some time. There's a complete season 1. I don't know if there's a second season, but we're covering just a few episodes of the first season. And I'll also link in the description the link that you have for our audience to be watching this. I'm going to go straight into this and first name like what I liked right off the bat and what I didn't like. So just right off the bat, what I liked was how there was some level of world building. I wish there was a little more, but I'm guessing there will be more world building, like in terms of explaining what this other world is that Subaru became a part of. The characters were also quite interesting. I don't think any of them were all that one-dimensional. They had their own personalities. Now, what I didn't really like, and this is not just a thing exclusive to this anime, it's more really a complaint I have with anime and video games as well, are some of the outfits that the female characters were wearing. One of the first antagonists of the show was a witch character called Elsa, and her outfit just seemed, I don't mean to be rude by saying this, but just kind of slutty. That was her, and also the character Felt, who also seemed like she was wearing an outfit that was kind of slutty, to be honest. And it's even more disturbing after she reveals that she's like 15 years old. I don't like seeing characters, especially female characters in anime or whatever, having to dress like that. And like I said, this isn't something unique to this anime. I've seen it in other animes, and I've also seen it in video game culture as well. It's never really been something that I approve of. Now, that's not a mark against the characters themselves, just a design choice that doesn't really vibe with me.
Yeah, I get you. Like they definitely do splash that in a lot of different shows. Like even Dragon Ball, like way back when they first started Dragon Ball, they had a scene where Bulma was flashing Master Roshi, and she's a teenager, barely a teenager.
Yeah. That's infamous. I remember the scene you're talking about, and it's an infamous scene of Dragon Ball. So yeah.
So
Well,
I
I was
totally
wondering
get
how
that.
like Elsa fights with that plunging neckline. Like I kept thinking she was gonna need to break out like a roll of duct tape or something while she was fighting that other guy.
Oh
But
no.
I joke, but
Yeah. Elsa
or is
was
that the villain's the one the assassin lady's name?
The Bow Hunter,
The
Elsa.
Bowel Hunter. Yeah, that's a great description, by the way.
Yeah, that's her, Elsa.
Okay. Not to be confused with the Disney princess.
Right, definitely
Mhm.
not. Totally different character. The same name. So yeah.
And she wanted that little piece that they had, and she was not ready to let it go.
Yeah.
Heyo, let's go.
What was the little thing that Emilia
I
had?
believe they I believe they called it an insignia.
Yes, the insignia. That's what she needs because she wanted to, I guess, kind of move up in her world in terms of ranking or royalty. I think that's what she needed it for.
Yes.
Okay. Um,
Well, at least that's what it signifies, but I don't know if that was the purpose of it for her because she was trying to retrieve it for someone, she said.
oh, I get it. Okay. So she just wanted to have it on her person so that she can just have it for whatever the purpose is. Having it stolen, period, was her problem.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So the character Subaru, our protagonist here, I find him to be kind of relatable because he's a gamer. I'm a gamer. Can understand that. That's cool. And he has sort of a happy-go-lucky personality. I liked that they showed he wasn't really a coward. He was definitely standing up for himself, and he was trying to figure out what was going on in the world that he was in. And I was mentioning earlier how I wanted there to be a little bit more world building because I remember in the opening of the show that he was walking into this bar and these humanoid characters that looked kind of alien or animal like were saying this bar is for demi-humans only or something. And after hearing them say that, I'm like, okay, so this world obviously is an alternate universe or just a different planet from planet Earth because it's not just humans on this planet. So I was hoping they would do a little more exposition as to what exactly the world is, but they didn't really do that in these 6 episodes. I'm guessing they would be doing that at some point later on in the season or in season 2. But if they don't explain it at all, it's going to leave me like scratching my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I've gotten a little bit past where you guys have seen so far, and where I've gotten so far, they still haven't explained a lot of things like
Hmm.
how he got there to begin with, or anything about maybe his family, more details about him.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
still a lot of questions.
Did you finish season 1 or are you still like not completed the season yet?
I have not completed the season yet.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we'll get to the episodes you compiled together in a moment. JM, question for you, because I don't know if I have asked you this yet. How well versed are you in like the world of anime in general? Have you watched animes before, or is this something new for you? Tell us about your experience with anime.
Well, it's pretty new to me on the whole. I've watched a few of the Miyazaki movies. I haven't really watched any serialized anime outside of maybe Pokemon. But with that said, I don't feel like a complete novice because I'm actually really into Japanese kaiju, which is like Japanese monster movies like Godzilla and Gamera. And like weird as it sounds, I kind of recognized a lot of the same beats, a lot of the same brand of humor you see in both. And both mediums sort of evolved out of necessity, as I understand it, but that's a whole nother can of worms. But to answer your original question, no, I haven't seen that many anime yet, but I quite liked this one, I must say.
That's very cool. You mentioned that you are definitely into Japanese film, and I guess because, it's the same culture that's been doing film and anime, you're definitely going to see like overlapping themes and ways in which the story is presented. So that's cool
Oh
to
yeah,
hear.
like not to get too sidetracked, but there were a couple of pretty high-profile Japanese monster movies that came out in the 90s, which were like described as basically live-action anime. And I didn't understand why until I actually started watching some of these cartoons. I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. But no, yeah, this I quite liked this one. It took a little bit of getting used to, and I'll admit the outfits were a little bit distracting. But once the story hooked me in, I was fully attentive. Like I could see myself maybe checking out the rest of the series later on because now I want to know more. Like, damn it, you ended this on a cliffhanger.
That was the perfect spot to put it. I wanted y'all to want more, or at least a little bit more.
Because they reveal just a little piece of information every week, just enough to hold your interest and make you feel like you're learning something. But then revelations usually bring on more questions, you know? And I think that's the mark of a well-told mystery.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. From the way you edited the episodes, I think it's impossible to watch it and not want to see what happens next.
Right.
Yeah.
At least just like a little bit more. Like you feel like even when I was watching it again, I was like, damn, like if this is my first time seeing it, like I gotta know like at least what happens on the next episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I might like at least check out the rest of the season in some way, shape, or form, you know?
Yeah, it's not that long. It's about 25 episodes, and you guys have seen 6 of them so far.
So let's get into the content that we were all able to see collectively. So Subaru is just in a convenience store, like you said, and then he's transported to a different universe, a different world, a different universe, a different plane of existence, at least. That's what it looks like. So a couple of questions that I have right from the start. And we are going to go into spoiler territory only for these, 6 episodes that we talked about. I'm just going to reference something I saw at the end, only to talk about the beginning. Toward the end, Subaru is about to confess to Amelia that he's been experiencing death over and over again and coming back to life. But this dark wave of energy kind of like haunts him, which stops him in his tracks of telling Amelia anything. And that's how your version of this intro story ends, right? So
yes.
I'm wondering if that's the same dark force that transported him to this world. And him being a gamer, he thinks that this is just like a video game simulation or something, and that's why he's there, which would make sense with this return by death thing, because in a lot of video games, after you reach a certain checkpoint, if you die, you appear right back where you started at that checkpoint, right?
If you remember to save.
If you remember to save. So
it does seem like that's what transported him. Well, I'll say more, but continue what you had to say.
Right. So what I'm saying is with checkpoints in video games, because they'll auto-save and you die and you get transported there, what is the checkpoint? Or did this show like hint if there is any sort of checkpoint as to where if he dies, this is where it resets? Because the street vendor who was selling him appas, right? First time he came across that character, I don't really recall him like anything that hints that from this point forward, something has changed. So that if he dies, he'll reappear at this point. That was the first checkpoint. And the second checkpoint is when he falls asleep for the first time in the mansion, right? So was it something that I missed, or was it just not explained that after a certain something happens, there's a new checkpoint? So do you know if there was?
I don't actually know because I haven't seen like the third checkpoint. I think that's going to be a clear indicator, or at least a clearer indicator. But it seemed to me like the current checkpoint is, after he finishes getting through the first obstacle, and then when he goes to sleep, it seems like it brings him back to, when he first wakes up. But the first checkpoint kind of throws it off because he didn't actually wake up anywhere. He was transported to the world. So they kind of like seemed like they picked a random spot to drop him in.
Exactly. Yeah, but also with him falling asleep, though, he was asleep at in one of his lifetimes, because he has like 4 or 5 different lifetimes, right? I'm talking about the amount of times he died. In one of his lifetimes, he slept in the mansion for 4 days, for 4 nights
Hmm.
rather. But when
Yeah.
he's killed, he wakes up again to the first night he wakes up at the mansion. You know what I mean? So I don't even think for him falling asleep starts a new checkpoint either. It's something about going to the mansion that restarted the checkpoint.
Yeah, like it seemed like when he gets through the obstacle that he needs to complete, though, that's when it's like speculation. If he sleeps after he gets through this situation and he gets through it the right way, then that would be the next checkpoint.
Right.
Speculation.
Okay. Cool. Now, Subaru, I don't know about you, gentlemen, but Subaru doesn't really strike me as an idiot. I mean, he has some idiotic impulses sometimes, but character himself, I don't really think he's a stupid person. I think he's self-aware and aware of his surroundings. So I will say, in his second lifetime, after he goes back to the pub where he saw the dead body of Rom, the big huge bartender guy, and he goes like his plan for his second lifetime was to go back there ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Because Amelia wasn't with him, and he uses his cell phone to bargain. He refers to his cell phone as a certain something, though. Do you guys remember the term he used to refer to his cell phone? I'm sorry.
Something designed to be used by non-magic wielders to simulate magic, but I don't remember what like the
They
term
said
for.
they were calling it a metia, and I only remember because it sounds close to media.
Ah, okay, clever, clever, yeah. So he was using his air code Metia as a means for trading for the insignia that Felt stole from Emilia.
Mm.
And Elsa loses out on it, but was it Elsa herself that asked, so what are you gonna do with the insignia anyway? I thought Subaru would be smart enough to not blurt out, oh, I'm gonna return it to his rightful owner.
You'd think.
Yeah, I I did think that, but he said that, and that causes everybody to die.
Granted, I guess his first encounter with this woman, he doesn't like. It's easy to not know that that would trigger her, but I mean, I don't know why he would say that in front of Felt though, because Felt stole it. Like, but I guess also it didn't seem like an issue because she really stole it just to get paid, and she's getting paid. So I don't know.
I don't know. I think Elsa might be part of some other like dark cult or something, because I think whatever Elsa is a part of, that's what Rem mistakes Subaru for. Like Rem, I'm talking about like way at the end of this movie that you made. Rem is threatening to kill. Well, she kills Subaru, but before he bleeds out, she's questioning him like, "Are you with them? Are you with the witches?" or something like that. Before she finally kills him.
Hmm.
And speaking of the twins, Ram and Rem, like we'll get to them later because I feel like they might not be human. Just showing how strong Rem is for wielding that giant spiky weapon. I feel like someone her size shouldn't be able to handle that much weight. So I feel like she's not human, but we'll get to her later. Um, Another character I wanted to talk to you gentlemen about was, I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong, Reinhardt, the dude with red hair who
Oh yeah,
Reinhardt.
Reinhardt, sorry.
the swordsman.
Yes, the swordsman. He is able to save Subaru, I think, in his third or fourth lifetime, when he reaches out to Amelia but refers to her as Satella because that's what Amelia said her name was, like in his first lifetime, right? But
Yeah.
she gets offended by that, right? And he's kind of on his own when he gets cornered by those thugs in the alleyway. But Reinhardt shows up to save him, and I feel like that was a little bit too convenient because we never saw. There were like one or two, or maybe even three lifetimes before this, and Reinhardt was never there before. So what changed in order for Reinhardt to know to be in that alleyway in that lifetime? You know what I mean?
I think the difference on that one was in the point in time where he was screaming and yelling for somebody to come help. This was after both Felt and Amelia had already gone past.
Okay.
So it must have been a little bit later than he ran into them the first time.
Right. So this was after Felt had stolen the insignia from Emilia, and Emilia was looking around town trying to find it.
Yes. Or it even could have just been he was in the area and just, this is the first time somebody's actually screaming for help. Because when you see him get sent back to that first checkpoint the first time, he turns around and then he sees Amelia, but he didn't see her before because he didn't know her before.
Okay. So this reminds me of something else that I want to ask you, Realms, and you, Jam, just to see your perspective as well. For every single alternate timeline that Subaru creates by dying and coming back to life, those timelines in which he died, do those universes continue to, or those timelines, I should say?
I actually have the answer to this.
Okay, go ahead.
So a good buddy of mine that I met from TikTok, his Instagram page is No One. He actually, like ReZero is his absolute favorite show. So he saw me talking about ReZero and he hit me up and he sent me a video. He sent me one of them, but there's multiple different videos and it shows different like alternate universes or different, like not necessarily universes, but how the story would have shifted if Subaru had handled like a certain situation differently. And apparently what the author does is he released ReZero, and then every year on Subaru's birthday, he picks a pinnacle point in the story and he tells how it would have gone differently if he had done a certain thing differently.
Okay. So I understand that, but that's kind of like a what if? Like what if Subaru did something differently? My question is, do those timelines like continue without Subaru there, or do those timelines like disappear once Subaru wakes up again? That's more of what I was asking.
Okay, that I'm actually not sure, but when I'm watching like the intro song, it shows different versions of him running around. So it's not quite clear if that's kind of like a foreshadowing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's not totally clear yet, and it's also not totally relevant to, I guess, the narrative, which is what does Subaru do? What does he do differently every time he wakes up? That's kind of like the main narrative. But yeah, that's the way I see it anyway. JM, what do you think? Do you think that the timelines continue, or do you think they don't, that they just kind of, it's like they never happened every time Subaru wakes up? Like everybody in this world, everything that happened never happened when Subaru wakes up.
Well, I think that's true for most characters with a few exceptions, because that librarian seems to remember him.
What's her name? Beatrice.
Oh yeah.
Beatrice seems to remember him. So I think, yeah, every day is like a blank slate for most of the characters, but for some reason Beatrice seems to be cognizant of at least some aspect of what's going on.
Okay. I think the situation with her was he had woken up prior to that checkpoint and I guess interacted with her, and then he fell asleep and he didn't really remember it. I think that's what happened with her. That's why she remembers him before he actually even realizes who she is.
Because I thought it might have something to do with those magical books she's always reading, Perhaps she knows something the other characters don't.
JM, I have to admit that I couldn't really tell with Beatrice if she was hinting at us that or if she was implying that she kind of knew what Subaru was going through, but it does seem like she's not human, right? She's definitely like not a human being. Neither is Amelia. What's the name of the person who rules the mansion?
Shoot. I had his name in my head. Hold on.
I'll look it up. Oswald, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Roswell.
So the guy looks kind of funny in terms of like his hair, his eyes, his makeup, but there's nothing extraordinary about him. So I'm guessing he might be a human.
If you ever watch Hunter x Hunter, he looks like a character that very similar in there called Hisaka.
Is that another? It's another anime then.
Yeah, that's another one. I actually have to dip into that one myself, so maybe that might be a future one.
Right. Okay. So, speaking of Roswell, did you guys trust him? Like, did you think that he had any ulterior motives while Subaru was there? Or did you think that he was just some quirky, flamboyant ruler of this giant mansion that Amelia happens to be living in?
He definitely seems to have this belief that the people who work for him are his property. I mean, he said so pretty much explicitly. So I'm inclined to think that he has kind of a skewed moral compass in that respect. But I haven't really pinned him for anything, like as anything, like, you know, a mastermind or what have you.
Okay. Yeah, I actually didn't catch that he said that. But yeah, now
In the bathing scene when Subaru, in one of the repeats when Subaru was one of his, I think one of his staffers, he said, "You work for me," which means you're mine, or something like that.
okay.
Yeah, it got really weird there.
Especially since the guy was naked and like bending forms, but I digress.
Oh my god, it's like walking into a gym, public gym, the
Oh,
locker rooms.
going to the Y, yeah.
While we're on the topic of being in the mansion, there was one timeline where Subaru just goes to sleep and he wakes up and it's the first night again in the mansion. Were we supposed to pick up on anything there, or was it just that he was like ill somehow and died in his sleep? That part kind of confused me. So yeah, I didn't really
I think
get that.
the idea is that if he falls asleep or dies before doing something, he goes back to the start point at this level. At least that's what I took from it, because sometimes he would get sent back to square one after getting killed, and sometimes he would get sent back after just falling asleep.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think it's just it kind of sets him back to a point where maybe there's crucial events happening that take place in that day. He has to go back before that. But as far as whether we were supposed to pick up on what happened to him, I don't think so. I don't think they left enough clues for us to be able to to be able to piece together exactly who did it or what happened to him. But it was kind of just
Yeah.
to leave us wondering what the fuck just happened. Like all he did was go to sleep, and all of a sudden he reset. Like it's just kind of leaving it to mystery at that point.
That's the thing. If what JM is suggesting is what we were supposed to pick up on, it's that if he doesn't do something, a certain task, then he will go back to the first checkpoint. It's not going to kill him, or he won't die violently, but he will go back to then, and he'll retain the memory of it.
Oh no! At that point, I think what happened there was that the girl killed him.
In his sleep?
Yes, because she mentions at a certain point that she kind of wanted to do it in secrecy so that her sister didn't, know that she was, killing him. So I think what she did was she tried to be, I guess, kind by doing it where he would feel no pain.
Okay. So Rem did that. Okay. Yeah, these twins turned out to be a lot more important than I had first thought. So in one of Subaru's deaths, he starts like vomiting in his bedroom, and then he goes throughout the mansion just vomiting, and then he gets attacked, or his limbs are cut off. He falls down on his face, and he looks over because blood is falling on his face, and he sees like either his leg or his arm just there, and it kind of drives him nuts, and he bleeds out, and then he dies. But he doesn't know who attacked him. The next time he dies, he finds out that it was Rem who was attacking him, and it's because Rem was really, really suspicious of him. But so this is what I was hinting at in the beginning, is that they don't show all that much emotion, but she's very strong. She's very powerful, right? that giant spike thing. Well, I don't know what to call that weapon, but she's able to wield it, and I feel like you have to be extremely powerful to be able to wield that, which is why I'm saying I do not think they're human, or at the very least, she's not a species, or she is a species that looks human, but is much more powerful than the average human being.
No, you're definitely right. They explain it just a little bit past where we leave off in the story.
Okay, so just a little past episode 6, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, and unfortunately for us, that's where the story ends, is just a little bit past episode 6.
So if you want to know, you're going to have to
Watch more, yeah.
They've got us hooked.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm hoping that the rest of the show starts to explain more about what sort of cult Elsa is from, why she was after the insignia that Emilia had in her possession. What was that about? I'm wondering if Reinhardt is going to come back with Felt, because that's the thing. The last time we see them two, we see Felt handing the insignia over to Emilia, which triggers something in Reinhardt. He grabs Felt and says that he's going to like arrest her or something, or reprimand her somehow, when ironically Felt is the one who found Reinhardt. She was running for help, screaming for help, and Reinhardt is the one who came to help everybody fight Elsa, right? And it turns out
Right.
that Elsa survived, and it seemed like she had enough strength that she would be able to keep fighting, but she decides to retreat instead.
Yeah, maybe she's got plans.
Perhaps plans to return.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry?
Regain some strength, loose some more bowels, that sort of business.
Level up.
Yep, and then come back.
In shirts that like have necklines that plunge down to the navel, that kind of thing.
Oh God.
Yeah, that certainly would be helpful on a battlefield at the very least.
Apparently in this universe, yeah.
So yeah, one last thing I will mention, because I think I've covered all of my thoughts for at least the 6 episodes that we covered. I really liked Puck, the voice actor for him. I think Puck is a him. The little dude was pretty adorable, pretty powerful for what he was able to pack. He looks like a cat, but I don't think he actually is a cat, right? Because the ordinary cat...
A magical cat.
Right. Who can shapeshift, because at some point we see Subaru resting his head on Puck's lap, and Puck is like the size of a man, right?
Yep.
So
yeah,
has the ability to shapeshift. He said he's limited by 9 to 5. So, and I think Subaru even says that it sounds like he's working in an office, because at that point is when he loses energy and he has to turn back into like a spirit and not be able to continue fighting, right?
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, from my concluding thoughts, I want to know how Subaru is going to like handle knowing that Rem wants to kill him, how he's going to figure out where he actually is with that dark energy, preventing him from telling anyone what, that he has this ability to keep coming back to life. I also feel like if that were to happen to a person, you would go insane. You would be driving yourself crazy, because if you're going through this, if you're constantly dying and you're feeling the pain of death and coming back and not feeling anything, and you're alone, in this sense, he's kind of alone because he can't even tell anybody about it. It's going to build up in him and kind of drive him crazy, or at least I feel like that's what it could do to him, So there's that whole thing he has to deal with. So I want to know that. I want to know how Subaru's going to deal with it. I want to know if he and Emilia actually do end up becoming a couple, because obviously he has a thing for Emilia, right?
Yeah, definitely he does.
I want to know that. I want to know more about Roswell, what his play is in all this. I want to know if Reinhardt and Felt are going to come back, and if they do, what's going to happen to Felt. I want to know more about Reinhardt himself, if he truly is like a hero, like the knight in shining armor, essentially. Even though he doesn't have armor, he just has a sword. But I think you gentlemen know what I mean. And yeah, for the intro, like these 6 episodes and the first few minutes of episode 7, those are my concluding thoughts. If you gentlemen have any other concluding thoughts on ReZero, Starting Life in Another World,
There was one thing that kind of confused me a little bit. Going back to the checkpoints,
Right.
we see him get through the first day with Amelia, and they help this little girl find her mother,
Oh,
and they
yes.
get back. They get back to the merchant, and he's thankful about it. He decides to help them out now that he did that. Now that they did that, then after he dies, after Subaru dies, he comes back to the checkpoint, and then he's talking to the merchant, and the merchant's saying, he said some broke kid like Subaru helped his daughter earlier,
Oh, yeah.
but yet in that moment, it tech like the period of time where he and Amelia would have done it was nowhere near yet
Yeah, that's true.
because he never met her yet.
Yeah.
So that confused me. So going back to what you were saying about like if the timelines continue, that could be a little clue right there that maybe there's another him going around.
Ah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I only caught it on my second watch.
Oh, aha! I'm trying to sound like a detective, but it ended badly for me. So let's continue.
Putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
There we go. Breaking out
Mhm.
the magnifying glasses.
But yeah,
Yeah.
going back to those alternate the what ifs, because the author's the one actually writing them, it does have me questioning like, is he writing them because at some point they all tie in together? Because I'll send you guys the video that my buddy sent me where they don't go into spoilers, but well actually you're gonna wanna have to watch at least up until you see how he finishes up the situation with Rem and Ram. But he goes in the video and he's talking about everything that Subaru has to deal with are tests of sin versus virtue. And
Hmm.
actually I
Okay.
actually have it listed out right here. Like the situation with him and Rem, the way that he deals with it, it's divided again. It's pride versus humility.
Hmm.
And then so it's gonna show in this video that I'm sending you what would happen if he chose his pride. And then you also see in the story how he deals with it with his humility. Because you see the way that he usually deals with this in the story. Like Farhad was saying, he's going through all these different things, and it's like you'd be going crazy, right? But yet somehow he always manages to, you know, get back in the right mindset.
Yeah.
So they show you what happens when he gets out of the right mindset. The first one is pride versus humility. The second one, I don't know what the situations are for the rest of these because I haven't gotten that far yet, but they show a divide of wrath versus patience. They show sloth versus diligence. They show greed versus charity. And they show gluttony versus temperance.
Wow. So these are all like, I guess, themes of ReZero?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They sound like dualities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a duality. I love that word. Yes,
Spoilers.
yes. And I think I saw other videos that explain because all the stuff is written out, like the stories that the author put out. But I think potentially all of these stories with the comparisons are all out.
Oh, they are? Okay, so they would all be like,
Hmm.
I guess, for the entirety of season one then.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, actually, in the video, he goes to say that in his video, he's not spoiling too much, like anything major from season two. So I believe he's read the manga at least of season two.
Okay. So yeah, this is all in a what you're describing, it's all like part of a series or a YouTube video, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Like this is a guy who's, he has nothing to do with, the actual creators or
Right.
anything like that.
Okay.
But
So
he's
he's like a super fan with like a lens into like the story and the
yes.
themes. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I would want to, for me then, I would want to first finish season one or at least find out what happens in the rest of season one before getting into that because, like we said, spoilers, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, cool. With that being said, yeah, so I've pretty much given all my thoughts on the entirety of this intro. if either of you gentlemen have closing statements before we go into ratings.
That's all I had on it, I believe.
Well, I was going to say that I was impressed by the way this movie bridges genres. I'm sorry, I call it a movie. I know it's a show, but it starts out as sort of an action adventure cartoon, and to some extent it remains that, but it weaves in this sort of classical mansion mystery about halfway through, at least halfway through the video that you gave us. So it, like the second half of the video wasn't nearly as violent as the first, but it still managed to hold our attention with this new sort of different reality that was reminiscent of sort of the classic whodunit capers that you used to see in some of the Alfred Hitchcock movies and the various Clue-esque murder mysteries and whatnot. I'm not very articulate today, but yeah, I think you get my drift.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
doing
I
well.
certainly-
You're doing well.
There was like maybe one fight scene in the second half of the show, but it still found a way to be interesting by throwing all these new characters at us and this different environment. And that's not an easy task for any storyteller, you know, to jump from genre A to genre B so quickly, but they pulled it off.
They warmed you up to the violence to come.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be plenty more violence down the road, and I was a little surprised by how much blood was in the first half of this compared to the second half.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I'm sure we're going to see more gore at a later date.
So, yeah, one other thing that I forgot to mention before is that this is a dub. You know, I don't know what the original Japanese version sounds like, but I like how just from the cursing, we're seeing that like anime can also be for mature audiences because they curse. You know, they say some pretty obscene shit in the anime, and I like how they're showing that like, yeah, this isn't always suitable for children just because it's animated, just because it's a cartoon. At the end of the day, it can still be for like, you know, older audiences enjoying anime as well. So that I also like.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, actually, do you usually prefer dubs or do you watch subs? Watch it with subs more often?
I love both. If dub is out, I will watch dub.
Okay.
That's just my preference. But if it's a show that I love, like Dragon Ball Z, they're coming out with Dragon Ball Super episodes, the sub always comes out first. If I love the show, I'm going to watch the sub. I'm not waiting for dub.
Okay.
And then after I usually watch the sub, then I never end up going back to watch the dub. I'm satisfied. I've seen what the story is.
Yeah, I know some anime purists exclusively seem to watch subs, but I was just curious about your preference there.
There's a whole war about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm kind of with Realms though. If it's an anime that I really love, then yeah, I wouldn't wait. I'll just watch the sub, which I did with Dragon Ball Kai, which was like the remastered version with most of the filler cut out of Dragon Ball Z. But then I watched it again when they actually dubbed it. But I'm saying like I didn't want to wait, so I just went straight into the sub. So
I'm trying to end the war. I'm trying to be the Avatar, trying to bring
He's
the nations
bridging the
together.
divide, yeah.
trying to make sub and dub people get along and not fight because there's no reason to fight. Like it's all preference.
yeah,
Everything changed when the Dub Nation attacked.
But I can't, however, help manga readers. They're a different breed. Like if they can keep it quiet, you know what I'm saying? The spoilers, hey, you're welcome, but at least sub and dub people are watching the same thing. Manga people, they know the future.
Oh, God.
no.
It's like those people who read the Game of Thrones novels before the series came out and knew it was going to happen like 3 seasons ahead of time.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
I personally don't mind manga readers. Like, I love spoilers. If anybody has spoilers, send them to my DM. Don't put them in my comments in respect to others. But you can send spoilers to me because it honestly, it's like reading the manga to me. Like, they're telling me what's going to happen. It just makes me want to see it more.
Yeah, I'm kind of with spoilers too. I mean, parts of Game of Thrones season 7 had leaked online, and people were avoiding them like the plague because they just didn't want to know. They wanted to wait until the show came out to see what happened. But for me, I wanted to read the spoilers because it kind of hypes me up, because I'll read them and be like, oh shit, that's gonna happen. So it has
Right?
the opposite effect for me. It doesn't always ruin it for me, unless we go into Game of Thrones season 8, but that's a whole nother story in and of itself, and not to get into that. But yeah, for season 7, had plenty of flaws, but reading the spoilers hyped me up for it. So it doesn't always like ruin it for me. That's the only point that I'm making.
I usually avoid spoilers myself, but I have noticed that sometimes I'll enjoy a movie or show more on the second viewing when I already know what's going to happen, because then you start to look for different things and sort of piece things together in your mind. I do enjoy being surprised, which is why I do try to avoid spoilers the first time around. But yeah, again, once you go back for seconds, it's fun to sort of know more than the characters do.
True.
Facts.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, with all of that being said, just want to, I've said all of my closing statements about ReZero. If you gentlemen have any other closing statements.
Go ahead, man.
No, I was just saying, I was trying to think. You go ahead.
Okay, I'll just say the only other thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and maybe this is just something that often happens in anime that I'm not used to, but Subaru's personality seemed to be a bit erratic. He would go from silence to screaming at people seemingly at the drop of a hat, and not just yelling, but like flailing his arms and all but foaming at the mouth. And even when he's just like lying in bed. And I don't know if that's a traditional like sort of anime shorthand, or if that's just his character, but it felt a little abrasive at times. But maybe that's just the way they wanted to play that particular character.
I think it kind of is more of an anime thing, right? Realms, would you agree?
In some. For him, I think it's definitely his character though, because he bounces from one extreme to the next sometimes, and if you watch a little bit further, he gets even a little bit more extreme in a certain portion of it.
I mean, I kind of would expect it because, as I said earlier, dying and coming back to life, experiencing that can probably take a toll on your mental health if you remember dying and coming back, and you can't tell anybody. Yeah,
that's fair.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but even then, JM, I think I agree with you because his erratic behavior, he's kind of like that from the beginning, even before he died, I think. I don't know. I'd probably have to go back and watch again, but I feel like that just kind of is how he is, and it did kind of throw me off a bit as well. But I feel like I've seen characteristics like that in a lot of anime protagonists. With all of that being said, going into ratings, I thought ReZero was really cool, and I am intrigued to see how the story ends, at least season 1. I'm going to give the first 6 episodes, what Rams compiled, a solid 8 out of 10, and I definitely recommend people check it out. People who are into anime, I think, will enjoy it, and people who are just into like cool storytelling or storytelling from different angles, I think people will find a place to enjoy this as well. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me.
I feel like I could sit well with an 8 right now, although it could be creeping up the more that I watch, because I've really been enjoying this. I'm usually watching a typical shonen type show where there's a lot of fighting, but hey, somebody suggested I watch this. I had people vote on a couple shows for me to watch. This was one of them, and it was completely different from what I was expecting. I think it's called I think the genre is isekai, like different world.
Yes.
Anime. But yeah, I feel like 8 and potentially higher in the future, depending on how the series goes.
Yeah, I mean, 8 for me just for these 6 episodes, yeah, because this isn't like a rating or a review of the entire season 1. It's only 6 episodes that the 3 of us together were able to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about giving it an 8 as well, so we've got a hat trick.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I liked it. I quite liked it. I would recommend this. I liked it a lot more than I even expected to, so good on you, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Realms, for suggesting this and giving us a link to watch it.
No problem at all. a little bit late in branching out in the anime world, but this is helping me expand for myself as well.
Hey man, it's never too late to pick up new passions or hobbies. Never too late.
Oh, the passion been there. Just I was kind of like, I only watch Dragon Ball Z, maybe a little bit of Naruto. Now it's like, all right, I want to do this. I want to base myself around anime. I need to see a lot more.
Right, right, yeah. Awesome. That sounds good. And this is just the beginning for the podcast too, because I'm expecting like as we go on further and further, we're going to see even more anime content that you will bring to the table, which will be really cool.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Next episode is going to be 10 hours of One Piece. Jokes.
Oh man.
Hey, is that like a one-piece suit? Because I just got a visual of like Pikachu in a tuxedo.
No, the anime One Piece.
Okay, see, that shows you how much I know about this stuff.
It's like I think it might be the longest anime out.
Oh, okay.
One Piece.
Maybe. It's up there.
JM, next episode is going to be your choice though. So do you have something in mind for us?
Well, I do. I know we had discussed the possibility of watching more miniseries and TV shows, but to be honest, I was kind of feeling an average length film, if that's okay with you guys this time.
Of course.
So I'm going to go with the 1998 remake of Mighty Joe Young, starring Charlize Theron. I think the special effects have held up really well, and that was one of my childhood favorites, so I'd love to revisit it with you guys. I know it's on Disney+. I think you can rent it on YouTube for like $4 if you don't have that. But, yeah, that's what I'm going with, man.
I remember Mighty Joe Young, yeah.
I love me some giant animals, man. It's kind of a family movie, but I remember it being pretty well made, so.
Yeah, I would definitely love to check it out again because I would feel nostalgic because I remember watching it as a kid and liking it too. So I'll be watching it from a new lens.
Sweet.
That just about does it for this anime episode of Movie Guys Improvise. You have been listening to
Chill with Realms,
Jurassic Mark,
and Faerhad Targaryen. Thank you all so much for listening to us, and catch us again next week.
Chill energy only.
Live long and prosper.